Welcome to CUNTY Life and Biz Realness, the uncensored show that explores how to live your truest life, what tries to get in the way, and how to grow your business as a result. I know you want to be more courageous, unapologetic, notable, transcendent, and authentically you, and you're in the right place, babe. I'm your host who's the most, Naomi, CEO and head life and biz authenticity coach at CUNTY Coaching. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to the CUNTY Realness podcast. I'm your host, Naomi. And this week, I want to talk more about pleasure and fun and joy. I am on a mission this month to infuse my life with more of all of these things and self-love as well, as I heal from burnout, as I heal from the kind of restricting myself and overworking and just not at all pouring into myself the way I need to, not honoring the feminine. You know, I was really heavily unbalanced in the masculine energy and working and all of those things. So I was reading, one of my things that I decided to do this month is to work less and infuse my life with activities that feel really good to me or that I love. So one of those things was reading, and I was reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And although some of the things in the book are quite problematic, it's very bro-y, it reminded me that as entrepreneurs, we can bend time and we can create time, we can control time. Even if we think we can't, we really truly can. I was reminded of that. And I was reminded of the fact that deciding to be an entrepreneur doesn't just mean working a 9-to-5 for myself. You know, I think that's something that we commonly do is because that's the model that we know of. You know, you get to your desk, you work at your desk for 8 hours, and then you clock out, right? And that's kind of the pattern I had been getting into and kind of forcing myself to work, you know, for that whole time in order to feel like I was productive or like I'm doing a good enough job, all of that bullshit, right? So I decided that I'm going to be really like way more intentional and way more creative with my time. And this month particularly, I'm taking a huge step back from a lot of kind of work and infusing myself with more pleasure and joy and just reconnecting to my highest self, because I feel like I had really put her aside, kind of sacrificed her way too much and just told her like, just sit quietly for now while I work, and then I'll get back to you, you know, in a bit when the money comes in again. And that's not right? I'm learning through burnout cycles that that's not how it works. And I love the way that Susan Hyatt says it really plainly and really simply, that self-care is the business plan. And at first I like scoffed, right? I'm like, self-care is the business plan. What the hell does that mean? Like, how can that be the business plan? The business plan has to be, you know, what we think a business plan has to be, right? So I'm getting really curious this month about what it can look like to make self-care, joy, fun, pleasure more integrated in the day-to-day life as an entrepreneur, in business, all of that, and not just be my own version of 9-to-5 hell with way more stress, you know? So I want to encourage you to also think about, where are you wasting time, right? Because what would happen for me is, you know, by sitting at my desk or whatever for 8 hours of the day, I was telling myself that I was being productive. But in reality, were the things that I was doing in that time really the most effective use of my time? Were they the most needle moving things? I don't think so, right? Because then the situation would be a bit different, I think. So I think it's really important to do a time audit. And I can help you with this. This is something I can help you with as a coach. But try doing a time audit. They are really hard to do because you have to track the activities you do throughout the day, like pretty closely, right? Not just, hourly by hourly, but like get really intimately detailed with it. And you'll see that you're probably spending a lot of time on certain things that you don't actually need to be, or there can be systems put in place or boundaries set in place that can actually help you tighten up that time expenditure and energy expenditure and actually infuse your day with more joyful things and energy giving things. And that can really go a long way to hold off any kind of burnout cycle. And that's what I'm learning now, is that pouring into myself isn't just, how would I say this? Like, in the most harshest forms of the patriarchy and hustle culture, we would say that doing too much of joy, pleasure, fun in our workday is unproductive. But actually, it's the complete opposite. It's those things, doing those things and making sure we're pouring into ourselves is actually the most productive thing we can do. And that is such a radical idea. And it's something that you really only recognize and understand for yourself when you actually do it. When you actually pour into yourself in different ways throughout your days, you actually can give yourself more energy. And the time that you do have outside of those activities can actually be way more productive time. And you can choose what activities are going to be the most important for you in that time. So that's what I meant at the beginning by like, we actually can control time, which I think is such a cool phenomenon. And we don't talk about it enough. And we, especially in historically marginalized communities, because we have just been kind of trying to do business the way that the oppressor has been doing business, because that's kind of the only way we thought we could get anywhere. And for a while it was. But I think now, like I mentioned in a previous episode, I think there are new ways of doing business, and we are evolving as a species, and we are progressing, and we are discovering new ways of doing business that we never knew existed. Like playing with different energies, playing with who we truly are. That's a huge one. Rooting into ourselves and like our truth. I know a lot of business owners now exploring what it means to dive into more of the feminine energy, understand more about their body, their human design, their astrology. A lot of this stuff that was deemed woo-woo and like outside of work and separate from work, it's actually super integrated and super relevant and really, really fascinating for us to explore. So I'm so glad that I decided to embrace it more as I have been becoming the CUNTY coach. It allows and inspires me to discover more of this new world, new paradigm outside of hustle culture that we know. So that's really what the project right now for me is, embodying that, discovering what that looks like and feels like on a day-to-day basis, playing around with that time and energy manipulation and embracing and following my gut and seeing what kind of wisdom the world around me really has. Getting back into nature has been a big one, which for me is like easier said than done. I tend to really value my cozy comforts. So kind of pushing myself to get uncomfortable more and get out in nature more has been really, really interesting for me. I'm also learning a lot about different forms of feminine energy and healing. So last week in my interview with Kimberly, so definitely go back and check that out if you haven't heard it yet. But at one point, she was saying like, oh, I was looking into the history of the word cunt, and it has something, it's related to Kundalini yoga. And so now I'm like so fascinated. I'm going back. I'm doing some research about that myself. There's a whole world that is about to be more unlocked. as I open my mind and open my heart and open all of my, chakras to different learnings and different wisdoms and different ways of being and wisdom that I didn't really know or grasp, right? Because of the patriarchy and colonization and hustle culture, the oppressive systems are really so ingrained, and I've been like really ingrained in them, right? So it's been really healing, really fascinating to uncover a lot of this. This also reminds me a lot of the conversation I had with Pearl Noir a couple of episodes back. Go check that one out as well. So right now, that's really what we're doing. And I want to encourage you to get curious with yourself as well. And let's have the conversation more openly. This is something that I'm like super passionate about, is talking about it more, opening up about it, because it's not going to advance if we don't talk about it more and teach each other and inspire each other and talk about different ways that we're healing ourselves and pouring into ourselves on a daily basis as entrepreneurs. How are we going to go more into this new world, this new paradigm of what business can look like for us if we're not sharing it and talking about it, right? So this is something I'm really passionate about. I'm creating a virtual community space, an app. So if you want to be a beta tester for the community space, let me know, because I am looking for people who can help me co-create it and give me feedback and insight and input into what you would love to see as part of this. I think it is such a needed space right now, especially as we unpack and try to look for other ways that aren't just the toxic hustle culture. Its grips are very, very tight on us. So that's one thing. If you want to be a beta tester in this community, let me know. Or you can go to cunty.passion.io and you can sign up through there. Right now, it's a web-based app, but in the future, once we're out of beta, I can absolutely launch it on the App Store and Google Play Store, which is super exciting. So that's one thing. Another thing that I am realizing is I think the CUNTY Retreat is going to shift a little bit. So the CUNTY Retreat, I'm sure you've heard about it so far during the ads in this show. It is happening in June 15th to 21st in the south of Portugal. Beautiful, beautiful Algarve region. It is going to fill our cups so much. And I think I'm going to lean even more into that side of it. I've been hearing around the interwebs and around the entrepreneurial space, again, no shocker here, a lot of us are feeling burnt out. A lot of us are just really tired, exhausted, disconnected. We're feeling a lot of this. The world is really heavy. There's a lot of shit happening, and a lot of us just need a minute, a beat to slow the fuck down and reconnect with ourselves. All of this stuff I've already been talking about today, of like pouring back into ourselves and resetting and redefining where our GPS is headed to and like the path we want to take to get there. I think it's really important to actually physically change your scenery, get out of the day-to-day, and like give yourself the space and surround yourself with dope humans who also want the same thing to be able to do that, to be able to change stuff. Like retreats are literally transformational in so many ways. I was talking to someone yesterday, a new biz friend, and she said she went on retreat in Portugal and it clarified some real stuff for her. And when she got home, she kind of like redesigned her business and decided like that she hadn't been doing it in full integrity, and like she had been not doing it the way that her heart truly wanted to do it. And so she made that shift, and now it truly is working much, much better for her, despite some coaches saying that it wouldn't work. So retreats are truly transformational. And I think I had been planning in the retreat, doing some workshops and some coaching and teaching and getting some guests to come in and do some teaching. But more and more, I'm seeing that people just want space to live and be and infuse their lives with more pleasure, joy, fun, and rest. So I'm going to be shifting the CUNTY retreat to include even more of that. It already was going to be really like a really loose schedule, but I'm even going to go in and revamp it. So I know a lot of people are probably waiting for me to release the itinerary, but this is the exact reason why I haven't released it yet. Because as I get more and more clear and close, and as I listen to people, I get to shift things around and play with what it's going to look like and what it's going to be. So that's what I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks here, is like redefining what it's going to look like, tweaking the itinerary, getting insight from people. I put a poll up on my LinkedIn about what people wanted from retreats. And last time I checked, 100% of the respondents said more rest and more restorative. So it's all confirmational and it's all data, and it's all because I'm giving myself more space and I've stepped back from like the stress of planning it, the stress of selling spots. Like I've really stepped back and taken my assignment that I was given, that I mentioned a couple episodes back from my spirit crew, that I really need to pour into myself more. And I was really overdoing it. And I'm going to leave you off with a little pleasure assignment because I've talked a lot about myself. I hope that that's helpful, that by me sharing what's going on with me and my realness, that you can give yourself permission to play around with your realness and discover what's true for you and what you might have been casting aside or, pushing away or whatever, right? So definitely take that into consideration. But I want to task you, and this is really worthwhile homework to do, okay? So in the show notes, I'm going to drop my joy tracker tool. It's a very, very, very simple tool. This came from my previous work as a postpartum doula, actually, because I was working with new parents who had very limited time and very limited energy. And I find that that's really, really resonant with a lot of entrepreneurs as well. So what it is we brainstorm activities that are joyful for you, that bring you some kind of pleasure, that bring you some kind of joy, that bring you some kind of fun, any of these things that you enjoy doing. They are fun. They don't have anything to do with work. They are purely for like no purpose other than pouring into yourself. It's not your work. You don't sell it. You don't like profit off of it. Like literally, it's just for you. It's not for your friends. It's not for your spouse. It's for you. So you brainstorm some of those activities and then you break them down even further into low effort, medium effort, and high effort. You break them down into those categories because listen, like it's just a reality. Like going on a trip halfway around the world, that's a little more effort than going for a walk around the block, right? So a little more planning, a little more effort, a little more financial investment. So we break them down. And then we go ahead and we schedule them in and we put in how many times we do these things for ourselves, because the data doesn't lie. If you look at that sheet and nothing is checked off, it's like, okay, let's take that as a warning that we are not having enough fun. We're not infusing our lives with enough joy, because a lot of us like what we do for work, right? There's no question. And we like our family for the most part. We like our friends. We like things we do for others. It brings us joy. But this is different. This is just for you. So go ahead, brainstorm those activities, divide them up into how much effort they take, and actually go the next mile to schedule some of them in. I think the low and medium are on like a weekly basis, weekly or monthly. And then The higher effort ones are more on like a yearly basis, right? So like those big trips, those big activities, are you going to run a marathon? Like those are things that you don't just do on a typical Saturday. If you do, that's fucking wicked. But those things can be a little bit like fewer and far between, right? Even if you run marathons, I'm sure you need time in between to heal. So go ahead and download that tool in the show notes and do it. Like I know that hustle culture, because listen, I'm talking from my own heart and my own experience right now. Hustle culture has us so wrapped up that doing something simple like this feels frou-frou and like useless and like a waste of time and silly and like grow up. It's the most sad thing that we have been taught that joy comes secondary, especially as people socialized as women. I find that this is even more, that we're meant to just become martyrs and sacrifice. Anytime we seek our own joy, we're told that we're selfish, which is the craziest thing because other people, like men, for example, are encouraged to like go to the gym, go for golfing, go do whatever, buy a boat. And I never hear that same kind of conversation for women unless it's like a means to an end. So like women will be told day in, day out to become more fit or lose belly fat or whatever. So that's the only context that we're told to go to the gym is when someone's saying that we need to lose some weight, not just for our own enjoyment, right? So this is like seriously a real issue that we're facing. So I'm not even joking when I say that this is really, really important for us to start taking our joy way more seriously, just as seriously as we take our business, our family. We need to be taking our own joy seriously as well, because if we are not well, and we won't be well, if we aren't paying attention to our joy, we will not be well. We need to. It's a must, everybody. It's a must to put more pleasure and joy in our lives, no matter how big or small, like micro things, micro dose it if you have to. It's just start somewhere, right? If you have to just start with the low impact activities, so like reading a book for 5 minutes, okay? Like start where you are, start small. You don't have to like go 0 to 100 real quick. Just print out the tool, start, brainstorm some things, add to it when you can, and slot them in. Start doing them and start showing yourself that actually you can work less and still grow your business, still move the needle, still, make massive impact. It is a real thing. This is not a lie. It's not false. We can be pouring into ourselves and having so much fun, so much pleasure, so much joy, and be kick-ass entrepreneurs growing our businesses. All right. I am here to shout it from the rooftops. And really, I'm learning. I'm my own first client. I'm learning. I'm sharing that journey with you all because I am the CUNTY coach. And if there's nothing else, everything I do is rooted in honesty. And that's why I'm on here sharing the truth with you, because I know I'm not the only one. I know this for a fact. Even though sometimes I feel like I'm the only one and I feel silly for like having to learn these things, I am not alone. You are not alone. None of us are alone in this. And that's why I'm also creating the community app. So just a reminder about that. It's at cunty.passion.io. I would love to have you in as a beta tester and to help me co-create the space. I want to know what you want to see. It's all rooted in this exact idea of de-hustling our businesses and having way more joyful, fulfilled, pleasurable lives. All right. I love you so much. Please reach out with whatever in this episode resonated with you. I'm on Instagram. My email is linked below. Just reach out and let's have a conversation, because people, we're not talking about this enough and we need to be. Because when us historically marginalized entrepreneurs are burnt out, our businesses not only suffer, but our communities suffer because our work is so impactful for our communities. So the more well we are, the more we show up as we are and heal ourselves, the more that we can thrive, and also people around us will thrive as well. So I adore you, and I will talk to you next week. Have a great one. Thank you so much for listening to CUNTY Life and Biz Realness today. Someone in your circle needs to hear this. Can you share it and leave a review on Apple Podcasts so this CUNTY movement can grow? And don't forget to tag me on Instagram at Naomi_authentically. I appreciate you so much and cannot wait to connect with you. You can always head over to cuntycoaching.com to work with me, join my events, my CUNTY email chronicles, and more. I hope you have a fulfilling week, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. This is your CUNTY coach, Naomi, signing off.